By the end of this video, you will never be able to say I the same way again, because I'm going to share with you Ibn Arabi's devastating proof that the person you think you are doesn't actually exist. This isn't philosophy. This isn't theory. This is a truth so profound it made him the most controversial mystic in Islamic history. If you're ready to question the very foundation of your identity, hit subscribe now, because what I'm about to reveal will dissolve the illusion you've been calling yourself your entire life. Imagine spending decades perfecting yourself, your character, your knowledge, your spiritual practices, only to discover that the self you've been working on is nothing more than a shadow on the wall. This is exactly what happened to Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi in the 13th century Andalusia. He was already recognized as one of the greatest spiritual masters of his time. He had written hundreds of works on mysticism, guided thousands of students, and experienced profound states of consciousness that most people couldn't even imagine. But then came the moment that shattered everything he thought he knew about existence. Ibn Arabi was in deep contemplation when he asked himself a simple question that would revolutionize Islamic mysticism. Who is the one who experiences these spiritual states? Who is the one who seeks God? Who is this I that claims to love the divine? As he investigated this question with the precision of a master logician, he made a discovery that terrified and liberated him simultaneously. He couldn't find anyone there. The more deeply he looked for the experiencer, the seeker, the lover of God, the more obvious it became that there was no separate entity to be found. Here's how Ibn Arabi systematically dismantled the illusion of individual existence, and you can follow his logic right now. First, he examined physical identity. He realized that what we call the body is nothing but a constantly changing flow of elements, earth, water, air, and fire, that nature loans to consciousness temporarily. The body you had 7 years ago has been completely replaced at the cellular level. So, if you are your body, which body are you? The answer became clear. You are not your body. But perhaps, Ibn Arabi thought, the self exists in the mind. So he turned his investigation inward. He observed thoughts arising and passing away like clouds in an empty sky. He noticed that emotions come and go like waves on an ocean. He watched as memories appeared and disappeared like images in a dream. But in all of this mental activity, he couldn't locate anyone who was having these thoughts, emotions, and memories. Think about this carefully. Right now, there are thoughts appearing in your awareness, but can you find the thinker of the thoughts? There are sensations happening in your body, but can you locate the one who feels these sensations? Ibn Arabi discovered that the more closely you look, the more obvious it becomes that thoughts think themselves, sensations sense themselves, and experiences experience themselves. This is where Ibn Arabi made his most revolutionary discovery about the nature of reality. He realized that what we call individual existence is actually a kind of divine dream. Imagine that infinite consciousness is like a vast ocean, and what we call individual selves are like waves on that ocean. The wave appears to be separate from the ocean, has its own shape, its own movement, its own temporary existence. But when you look more closely, you realize the wave is nothing but ocean, expressing itself as waveform. The wave has no independent existence apart from the ocean that it is. Ibn Arabi saw that human beings are exactly like these waves. We appear to be separate individuals with our own thoughts, feelings, and experiences. But When you investigate closely enough, you discover that individual consciousness is nothing but divine consciousness expressing itself in the form of apparent individuality. In his most famous teaching, Ibn Arabi declared, "Wheresoever you turn, there is the face of Allah." But he didn't mean this metaphorically. He meant that literally everything you experience, including the experience of being you, is nothing but divine consciousness appearing as the world of form. What's remarkable is that modern neuroscience is beginning to validate Ibn Arabi's insights. When researchers study the brain during profound mystical experiences, they find that the area responsible for creating the sense of separate self, the default mode network, shows dramatically reduced activity. Advanced meditators show brain patterns suggesting they've learned to function from a state of consciousness that transcends the ordinary sense of individual identity. What Ibn Arabi understood through direct mystical realization 800 years ago, contemporary consciousness research is now mapping through brain imaging technology. But Ibn Arabi went even deeper. He asked, if individual selves don't really exist, then who is asking these questions? Who is having this realization? Who is dissolving into divine consciousness? And this led to his most mind-bending insight. The very questioning itself is divine consciousness investigating its own nature through the apparent form of individual inquiry. God is not separate from creation, looking down at it from the outside. God is the very fabric of existence itself, experiencing reality through countless apparent perspectives. You are not a separate being having an experience of the divine. You are the divine having an experience of apparent separation. The seeking is divine consciousness seeking itself. The finding is divine consciousness recognizing itself. The one who realizes there is no separate self is divine consciousness awakening to its own true nature. So, how does this transform your daily experience? How do you live from this understanding, rather than just thinking about it intellectually? Ibn Arabi taught that the first step is simply relaxing the constant effort to maintain and defend the illusion of being a separate self. Notice how much energy you spend throughout the day thinking about me and my problems and my future. What if you could let that burden go? Start paying attention to the awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. Notice that whether you're happy or sad, successful or struggling, that aware presence remains unchanged. That unchanging awareness is not something you possess. It's what you actually are beneath the story of individual identity. When Ibn Arabi fully integrated this understanding, he didn't become less human. He became truly human for the first time. He didn't lose his personality. He discovered what personality actually is when it's no longer mistaken for ultimate identity. He didn't stop functioning in the world. He began functioning as an expression of the divine intelligence that moves all things. This realization doesn't solve all practical problems, but it dissolves the fundamental problem, the illusion that you are a limited, separate self, struggling against an alien universe. Instead, you recognize yourself as the very consciousness within which the universe appears. If this video has begun to dissolve something in your sense of separate self, subscribe now and hit the notification bell, because in our next video, I'm going to share Ibn Arabi's practical method for living from this understanding, how to function in daily life when you've realized there's no separate person there to function. Until then, remember Ibn Arabi's most liberating insight. You are not in existence. Existence is in you.